Welcome to Inside Out with Sahas and Ali. We talk about mental health, challenge belief system, and push you to ask more whys to help you find the genius inside of you. Yes, I said genius because you are one. The first ever guest on our podcast goes by the name Mark Smith. I have known him personally from almost a year now, but it feels like as if I've known him from ages. He is huge on mindset and couldn't care any less when it comes to complaining and entitlement issues. He's a motivational speaker, sales and mindset coach, and has his own podcast and a YouTube channel by the name of 7 to Mindset Investor Podcast, which brings real stories of people who have gone through adversities but never took fucking no for an answer, just like himself. In his sales career, he has closed more than $80 million worth of sale and is widely known real estate investor in Canada. He has four lovely children, Arman, Naya, Adam, and Aryan, and beautiful and the most amazing partner, Zara, who I personally adore. And she is not just a strong woman, but also the pillar and strength of the family. Mark, welcome to Inside Out.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it. I'm humbled and blessed to be your first guest.
It's
and
our honor.
hopefully my language here doesn't make sure I'm the last guest. So
No, bring it on, man. This is what we want. Like,
awesome.
No, we want to keep it as raw and as authentic as like the way that you go on with your podcast also.
Right.
mhm.
Right. Before we start with the conversation about mental health issues and anything related to that,
Yep.
if you realize that I said in my intro, you go by Mark Smith, can you elaborate a little on that?
Sure. Absolutely. So Mark Smith, yeah, like where does a brown dude have a name like Mark Smith? unless you're Russell Peters.
Yeah.
But the evolution of Mark Smith, like, and I love how you put it at the beginning, I go by Mark Smith because Mark Smith isn't my real name. But it's, yeah, I mean, I went through hell and back. And through that hero's journey, where basically I got my ass handed to me, I needed a way to get back into social media. And there was a lot of hate towards me. There was a lot of bullshit that was just coming my way. And I said, so I basically took a hiatus from social media, but I know how important social media is. And it's not because I need, at the time prior to that, is because I need to be loved. And I was that bitch before. But I remember driving and I said, how do I get back onto social media? Because there's so much to be learned from social media, and what's out there. And so I just happened to be driving. I'm a very spontaneous individual. And I said, fuck it. Mark Smith sounds good to me. It sounds vanilla enough to me. And that's how I started that, just to be more of that level of, to be anonymous, I guess you could say, and just in the background. For the longest time, actually, on social media, a lot of people only knew me as my logo, which was a ZF.
Yeah.
That was in the background. I didn't put a face to it. And it wasn't until, really diving deep into my personal development that I created a face for it. And that's how Mark Smith came about. In talking to a few people, quickly realized, like, people have asked me, like, what's Mark Smith? Where does it come from? And so forth. And the dog also agrees here, and I may have to kick him out here, and I apologize. But I asked a few people, and I said, I got this name, and they said, well, this is not new. Like, this is actually, there's a science behind this. And you look at Beyonce Knowles. Beyonce Knowles is a gospel singer, and now she gets on stage and, she's showing skin, the way she moves, and so forth. So she actually had to create an alter ego for herself called Sasha Fierce. Stephen King doesn't only write horror books or thriller books. He's known to write other books, but he comes with a different name. Yeah. Interestingly enough, many famous romantic novels where you have Fabio laid out on a rock with a woman in his arms and the ocean in the background and unicorns and leprechauns everywhere. And those are actually written by men who come up with, they have women's names on there. So as I got more and more into this, and I said, wow, there's actually something behind this. And it wasn't until I saw a post by Tom Bailu that talked about the alter ego effect by Todd Herman, had him as a guest.
Mm-hmm.
And every superhero has an alter ego. Wonder Woman, Superman, Clark Kent, Bruce Wayne, Batman,
Yeah. Yeah.
the Hulk.
Yes.
I mean, and so anyways, so I don't want to make a long story, like to take us into something too long, but by creating Mark Smith, what Mark Smith allowed me to do, instead of looking for help inwards and looking out, it forced me to look outwards in.
But Mark, what actually got you to, change your identity altogether? Like, is it's not that easy for anyone to do that. Where do you get that kind of a strength to do that? Is it important for somebody to go through adversity and then realize themselves that they are something else with what they have been, known by before, and they're entirely different person later on, and that only comes by changing their identity? How did you go through that kind of a journey? I mean, through that mental phase of your life,
Mhm.
what were you thinking when this happened?
Sure. All
Because
of
I
us.
believe, sorry to interrupt you, but because I believe it's not just about social media, right?
No, it's about everything. Every I don't give a rip who you are. Everybody has an alter ego. I don't give a fuck who you are. You go to the gym and you want to push weight, you're talking to yourself. Don't be a bitch. Push yourself.
Yes.
You got this. You got this. You got this. That's creating a character. When you go to a bar and you're pretending you're someone you're not, right? So that's a lot of times we psych ourselves up and we're creating that alter ego. So it's not a question of an identity where you're completely shifting your identity. It could be for that moment in time. So for me, I can tap into this and I can shut it down. And it just becomes a unique exercise. You don't have to go through a traumatic event to having to go through this. In my opinion, it just really your circumstance. I found there's really two sides of me. So I got my old self, which was a people pleaser. I wanted to be loved all the time. I was a popular kid all the time, had to host all the parties, had to have all the Facebook friends, had to be invited to all the parties and so forth. In actual fact, I was a little bitch. Mark Smith is the rock star who can give a rat's ass who loves him, who follows him.
Yeah.
And the power of having an alter ego is I could go kill Mark Smith tomorrow. I could actually have a funeral for Mark Smith in a closed casket and it would have a biggest fucking funeral compared to who I was before.
Yeah.
That's the power of alter ego.
That's so powerful.
Wow.
That's right. And I think still I want to go a little more detailed about it in terms of finding yourself, finding your why, that you wanted to become Mark Smith, not the previous person, because you said that was bitch. That was the scared bitch, right? And why do you say that?
Yeah, it's a good point. There's two things we'll talk about here, and these are simply my opinions. And if people don't agree, well, fuck them. This is my opinion. And so first things first, I don't believe that we're here to people are on this journey and they're looking to find themselves. Look in a fucking mirror. That's who you are. What you need to be doing is creating who you should be. When you start creating, that's where intentionality comes in. Be intentional. Authenticity is who we truly are. Now we can build enough being intentional, that whole level of that it then becomes our authentic selves. There's no doubt in my mind, but it takes discipline. It's a reflex. A reflex is what becomes authenticity. You see that with a kid. You take away a kid's candy or they take away their iPad and they absolutely lose their shit. They're being authentic at that moment in time. But if they build some reflexes and they know how to deal with that, that's how they're going to build a better self. So it's about creation. Okay. The why is so powerful. There's a great exercise by Dean Graziosi. It's called 7 Levels Deep on YouTube.
Yep.
And I mean, I did it, and it actually took me about 14 levels to get deeper and deeper.
Wow.
And I thought I had it until I happened to be reading one morning, and I said, holy fuck, I've just figured out what my why is. And it was almost like synonymous where you could just close your eyes and you see the light just coming in. It was like, holy fuck, it was that impactful. Even when I'm talking about it right now, it's like, it was a very spiritual moment.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow. And so my why is directly related to what I'm trying to create. People may say their whys are, I'm doing it for my kids. Okay, that's a cop-out answer.
Hmm.
Be selfish. Find out what why you're doing this. Is it
You're
to feed your ego? Is it to compensate for something you lacked in life? Is it something you're lacking now? So that was a powerful breakthrough for me. And what I realized is how I had a hard time fitting in with people. I had a hard time fitting with people because I was always a black sheep.
Was that by being Mark Smith, or was that
My previous self.
previous self? Okay.
Okay. I was bullied.
Okay.
Now, coming from Alberta, I mean, it's all white, and there was racism and that kind of stuff. But my bullying didn't come from that. My bullying came from people from my own fucking race.
Wow.
Okay. So, and it was always work to fit in. It was always work to be invited to the events. It was always work. It was always, I had to prove myself to other people just for my self-worth. At the end of the day, they didn't give a fuck about me. I wanted them to, but to each their own. That's okay. It's my fault, not their fault. So I realized that through this, and my why is I'm not going to give up. Like, my why is I don't give a shit. I'm not taking anyone's shit no more. This is my life.
Yeah.
And I will impact. It will be my impact. And those people in the past, God bless them, fuck them. They're not like a piece of me now. So anyway, so that gives you some element. So my why comes from a lot of anger because it was a fight. But if I saw someone, whatever, I'm not going to go and lose my shit on them. But the fact is that I realized what this was, is that these were anchors holding me back. They're holding me down, and I actually had to get rid of them. And that's where the liberation happens. That's where the freedom to create art happens.
Right. You wrote very perfectly yesterday on your post also, and I have that open with me. You cannot be authentic and intentional at the same time. And what you said something related to that. Scarcity mindset may be our authentic self, whilst abundant mindset is our intentional self. Authenticity is our lizard brain, whilst intentionality is how we fight the resistance. This is powerful.
Yeah. It was like one of those moments where everything started just connecting dots. And basically that comes from a multitude of different books I just put together there. And the fact is that scarcity. So, is it H.A. Ecker? I think that's the author. Ecker is the author of Secrets of the Millionaire Mind, talks about this. And it's all linear. So basically what you have is you have thoughts to feelings, feelings to actions, action to results. What happens before our thoughts is programming. So programming can be our scarcity mindset. It could be our abundance mindset. And that's how it's going to affect our thoughts, feelings, actions, and results.
And you think the programming comes through the family and the way that you have raised also?
Environments. And I don't say environments of who you're living with, who you're talking to. It could be your surroundings, could be the music you listen to, could be the books you read. So, and programming is what affects that. So if you grew up in a house and every day all you got is McDonald's, chances are you're going to be overweight. Chances are you're going to have really bad blood pressure. You're going to have diabetes and all that stuff. It is what it is. So it's a level of programming. That's why it's all about fixing that or revamping the programming or whatever you want to call it. It's removing that, and that's where the work is. It's just too easy to leave things as is.
Right.
Tim, the thing that we avoid the most happens to be the thing that we need the most. Tim Ferriss says that.
That's so true. Mark, I do want to touch upon that a bit more as well. You mentioned your upbringing, and something you mentioned a lot in your other posts is that you suffered with anxiety and there were a bit of depression as well. Now, did you find that that was because of the upbringing and the stress from your work, or was it something you always held down and just came as an outburst? Part two of that question was that um, the day and age right now, it's so easy for a quick fix, take a drug, take a medicine, and you're back to normal. And I get it, corporations demand that. They want your employees to be fit, fat to work all the time. What route did you take to really overcome that? Is this the personal journey, or did you ever rely on the typical traditional methods of fixing yourself?
Good question. Okay, so the first thing is I believe everyone suffers from mental health, one way or form. If you have envy, that's a mental issue. Now, people would disagree with me. Maybe say, hey, it's whatever, it's a behavior, whatever. But again, it affects your mindset. And anything that affects your mindset is a mental health issue. So for me, I dealt with mental health issues, if we want to go that path, where I was envious. Like I said, I had to be the popular kid. It was always a struggle because the people I was around, they were spoiled, they got whatever they want, whereas anything I had to do, I had to work my ass off for. So, and then I became the show off type. Hey, you know what? Like I would go and buy like, a $5,000 suit just so I could show people. It wasn't for the right reason. I was still a broke motherfucker on the inside. Right. So, but through my journey, so I'm blessed that I had I still have amazing parents. Okay. They were the ultimate hustlers, typical immigrant story, the Canadian dream, come from a different country and work multiple jobs, and then tell your kids they have to go to school, get a good education, and so forth. But again, like I said, that struggle was always there to try to fit in. And like I said, I was always a black sheep. It was tough. Like, and it was more like tough with people in my own community, which is cool. But where the real awareness of mental health really came about was being in toxic relationships when I was older. And I couldn't figure out that I actually had these issues going through me, but my health was deteriorating. I would have these night sweats where I'd actually have to go change my clothes and change the sheets, change a pillow, and that kind of stuff. I would actually, the way I describe the anxiety that would creep up on me was this hand of the devil, I used to describe it as, and it would creep up on my back. It'd be warm, and then all of a sudden get really hot. So I'd be in this conversation right now and I'd be dripping in sweat without even knowing. And what that anxiety was, it was the demons of being a little bitch. Because I was fighting that. Again, I wanted to please people. I was second. I was third. I was fourth. Everybody else was first. Then going through my toxic relationships, one I better not mention because they'll probably come and sue my ass right now. I'll throw that out there when I listen to this because they are listening to everything I'm posting. Two is, going through a marital breakdown. And everything just simply compounded and compounded and compounded. And things will compound on each other when you don't take care of things. It's like that slight edge. We talk about the compound effect or whatever. It's like if you eat shitty food every day, you're not going to see a difference every day. Fast track 6 months, you're going to see what that compound effect is going to be. So when we don't fix the immediate issue, this is what happens. And what happened is my cup got full and everything started overflowing. And so I have never been diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder. I've had some trauma in my life. The anxiety I have had, and at the time, the only way to fix, it's not really a fix, it's simply a Band-Aid, is drugs. And when I say drugs, it's prescription meds. So it's taking your antidepressants. Some people may opt for other more natural means, but that's the Band-Aid. But once you're on those Band-Aids, you can't. It's not like you can start taking that Band-Aid off, because it affects your mental, your chemistry, and it fucks you up. It fucks you up. So it wasn't until I got into my personal journey and the hero's journey with respect to really focusing on me, and reading, getting in masterminds and all that stuff. So I got into all that, and it wasn't until I was on this growth, and it's so easy to go back to the resistance.
Right.
The resistance always has its down, because the resistance wants to bring you back down. And that's 98% of the population out there. They don't want to reach to your level. They want to bring you down to their level. So what happened was I was talking to one of my coaches, and I said, man, I just can't get through this. It just seems like I can't get through this. And he goes, well, you keep on pushing hate. And when you create hate, whether you say it or not, it's, one of my other peers said this to me, sent me a link. It's called the pendulum effect. Have you guys heard the pendulum of energy? So if it's this pendulum shift where when you throw a negative energy comes back. You swing it again, it's going to come back harder.
Wow.
Right? So you got to either push positive, or you got to cut that pendulum out, or whatever it is. And what that pendulum was is, instead of me sending hate and anger, I started sending love and gratitude. And it was when I made that shift to that a lot of the issues I was having before with anxiety started to recede.
Wow.
So I can't remember which book it was, and they said you could put happiness, or you could put gratitude in a pill. It would completely destroy all pharmaceutical companies.
Exactly. I agree.
It would kill the liquor business. It would kill all of that. So anyways, it was practicing gratitude that really took things to the next level. Again, this is all anecdotal. I don't have clinical studies. I don't have randomized controlled studies to back this up. I'm basically the placebo effect versus the other effect, right? And I actually had a guest on one of my podcasts, Perry Sean, and it was her conversation that really, it just fucking hit me. And so Tom Bailu also talks about this, is that when we're not learning, we're becoming more fragile. And what happens is our brain is plastic. Our brain, out of all of our organs in our body, as we get older, the only organ you want to grow is the brain. You don't want to have an enlarged heart and large liver. That's all bad stuff. But your brain is plastic, and it's firing on neurons and opening up new channels. So I found that anytime, a lot of my anxiety stuff started to coming down. It was because I kept on pushing on learning and learning. So I was becoming anti-fragile. It was Perry Sean's interview that I did that she brought up her husband, who suffers from dementia. And anytime her husband would focus on his purpose and his personal development, his dementia symptoms would recede. And the moments he didn't feel purposeful, his symptoms would come back.
Interesting.
I listened to
You know what's
very powerful.
Sorry, go on.
Yeah, I listened to that interview. That was really powerful. I think it's more related to the neuroscience when
Absolutely.
it comes to finding purpose, and the symptoms of dementia would just go away. It's really powerful. Ali, sorry, you were saying something?
Yeah, no, it's Mark, you said something really interesting about the pharmaceutical companies. I 100% agree on that. They say that every time you go to a doctor, a psychiatrist, they'll say anxiety, depression is for life. You got to take these medications. It's like diabetes. I don't prescribe to that. I've seen people, and you're a prime example as well, that have come out of it without any kind of drug intervention. And it's
But did
only,
you ever take any medicines, like
I
any?
actually, I did actually, and I noticed that it didn't do anything for me. It's like you said, it's a bandage for a moment, but it made you feel worse over time. But when I actually started changing my behavior, um, like for example, actually, like I said, practicing gratitude, changing your mindset, your programming, that's when I actually noticed a real improvement, real change. The medication was just to get you up out of the bed in the morning. It's not supposed to fix your life. And that's the real, I think, issue people have, is they think that I'll just take a pill and I'll be back to normal. My doctor said it's okay. I mean, your doctor wants you to take the pill so you can kind of come back to him all the time. It's not meant for a long-term fix.
The other thing I'll add to that too, which is very, very important, and I appreciate you sharing that. People have asked me, like in 2020, I read and listened to over 55 books. I'm doing my workouts. I'm pushing on masterminds. Yes, there's the whole adage, okay, my personal development, I want my brain to grow and that kind of stuff, which is, I believe, the secondary benefit. The first benefit I'm getting is it's pushing back on a resistance. It's a fight. It's too easy not to go to the gym, but it's a fight to go to the gym.
Exactly.
And people may say, no, I don't have to fight to go to the gym. Yeah, but I mean, there's still that mental capacity, that's bandwidth. It's too easy to sit on the couch for some people. And that's our lizard brain. That's our resistance.
Yeah, it's funny. Like I read what Seth Godin also talks about the lizard brain, and he says that we cannot fight and win from the resistance, but we have to learn to dance with it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Yep.
yes.
Absolutely.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Because that is anyway, which is one of the most strongest part of our brain, and we cannot just deny, because it's programmed to save us from certain adversities, the way that we function, save us if we are crossing the road. So its first plan of action is going to save you, and that could also be against you, because that is not pushing your own boundaries to reach to the levels that you want to reach, like the goals, or taking risks in life. And maybe just think about it, getting out of depression, because it's safe. It comforts you that you're in a very you're coaxed very nicely, you are in a very comfortable position when you are also under depression. I've been into depression. I've been on the medication for a year long, and even more than that. And I've seen both sides of it, like being into depression, having antidepressants, and like you talked about, finding a purpose in life, and channelizing your brain into saying that you can do it if you just think about it and start taking actions around it. And I saw that side also, bringing discipline, like fighting, like dancing with resistance, going to the gym, finding the discipline, going to like the masterminds that you join, which I'm also a part of, and just getting it out there so that you have to keep on challenging it.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, that's very simple, like the hand coming from the back, which can comfort you anytime and say, you know what, this is safe, why don't you come back to me?
Mm-hmm.
And you said no.
Yeah, well, and it's so true, because society now is all about making people feel good. Just show up, you get a ribbon.
Yeah.
They don't want to even, like, what the fuck? They don't even want to have like 1, 2, and 3. Just show up and just, God darn it, you tried. Like, fuck off. Like, that's what's crippling society. Like, I really worry about kids. I mean, I remember 2 years ago, they announced, it was in Ontario, I can't remember where it was. They're going to not have homework for kids anymore. Because it was putting too much pressure on them. What is putting too much pressure on the kids? Is it homework, or is it the outside pressures of having to fit in?
Yes, exactly.
Like, fuck off. Like, when I hear some of this bullshit, I'm like, who in their right mind? Like, essentially, like you said this at the beginning, I am like the most anti-entitlement person. I do believe in one thing though, fair is fair.
Yeah.
There's a difference. Entitlement means you don't have to do nothing, but you got your hand out.
Yeah.
Narcissism is the great example of someone that feels entitled, that want to gaslight people. They put 2% in, but they want 150% back.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's what it comes down to. This is all connected. This is all connected.
No, you're absolutely right. And how was your childhood like? Like being born to immigrant parents, they were the ones who came to Canada, right?
Yeah.
And they came from Africa.
Yeah, they came from East Africa. Yep. So my parents are East African. My I think it's like 4 generations prior to, from India, Pakistan. So East Africa, and then an opportunity to present themselves to move to Canada. And they happened to choose the coldest place in Canada, which is Edmonton, Alberta. And that's where I was born and raised.
And how was your childhood like? Like, were you bullied being born to immigrant parents? Like, how was that like for you?
Yeah, it was tough. Like, so again, like my parents did everything they could, right? They gave us love. There was never a moment where there was no food in the fridge and we were starving to death. Whatever it took. So my mom, I think at one point she was working 3 jobs, like from 6 a.m. to 9 o'clock at night, and just go from one to the next to the next. And then my parents were quite religious, right? So in between there, making it out to pray and so forth, and then being faith-based community, there was heavy emphasis on all of that as well. But my parents just went with it. They never complained. They just went. They just you got to do what you got to do. And my mom is like me. She's like a cleaner. She just is never satisfied. Just has to keep on going. So for us, I mean, I have a brother, and we just, my parents were out there, and then, we had our roles, what we had to do. Like I said, my mom would do her thing. She would be at work, but there'd be food in the fridge. We knew what to do, put it in the microwave, and off you go, right? Do your homework. And then in between there, it was like, I was never big into gaming and Nintendo and all that stuff. I was more sports. So it'd always be like in between, it would always be outside playing football, playing soccer, playing hockey, or whatever it was. And that was it. That was it. And so from the bullying aspect, I dealt with racism, and did I get into some nasty fistfights? Absolutely. I still got scars on my knuckles from people's teeth, but had to fight. And it was a constant fight psychologically as well. Being called a packy, you're doing this. And then, and I had one of my uncles used to say to me, like, hey, all it does is you got to fight back. Just fight back. And you don't have to beat the guy up or beat those individuals up. You just need that one punch that they'll never forget, and they'll never bother you again.
Right.
That is so true.
So I've been in situations where, where there'd be like 5 people in front of me, and I'll fight all of you right now. Let's go. In my mind, I'm like, I'm fucking doomed here. But to someone, and you're saying, I'll fight all 5 of you right now, it's like, this guy's fucking with us. Like, it would always de-escalate. But there was that moment where I had that anger and that kind of stuff, but I had to fight. And like I said, the biggest struggle was then fighting within your own community.
What do you think was that for, though? It's really interesting you say that you found the most racism, not really racism, just
bullying,
bullying in your own community. That's, I've never heard of that before. I've heard the classic racist issue, but never the communal issue. Obviously you have disagreements with people. So what was that like?
There's a term for it. It's called reverse racism. How many times have you gone to an airport when we could travel, and it was always that brown dude that would pull you aside and say, and which is cool, to each their own. That's their own reality. So I think that's what it was, and it doesn't matter if you're brown, white, purple, doesn't matter. If you want to be a bully, someone can be a bully, and it's something that's happening in their own household. So I just happened to be an easy target. And why did I happen to be an easy target? Because I wanted to be loved by everyone. So I just walked around with a big target on my forehead saying, bully me, pick on me, be an asshole to me.
Now, Mark, you also mentioned about your kids as well.
Yeah.
Now, how obviously it's very different the way they're being kids in this generation are being raised. So, what are you as a father doing right now to instill, I would say, better values to your kids versus what you see outside?
Yeah. So first things first, our kids are watching. They're watching and they're listening. They're watching to see if you're on your phone all the time. They're listening to what you're listening to. They're emulating. They may not they may not like, but they're taking notes. Just like when we were young, we watched our parents. We knew what they were doing, what they were saying, how they acted, how they treated people.
Mm-hmm.
So that question is important for me. And there's different ways I look at that. Number one is respect. Treat everyone with respect. Treat everyone with respect is what I tell the kids. I also teach the kids is that to be fighters. And I'm not saying to go kick the shit out of people.
Mm-hmm.
What I mean by that is I tell my children, if you're ever in a situation and I found out that you didn't fight back and you got your butt kicked, I'll be pissed off at you. But if something happens to you and you fought back and you got suspended or whatever it is because you defended yourself, I'm cool with that. It actually happened to my son. I got a call from the principal. This is many years ago. And I said, yeah, my son has permission. How so? And I said, if he's being bullied and if he's being beaten up, I said, I want him to come home and tell me what the sound of breaking bone sounds like. Now, this gives you a level of how I am. Like this is stuff I'm sharing for the first time. But this is what I did. Because you know what? People will keep on pushing until you let them know, like, hey, it ends today. It ends today. And so there's that. So I don't want your audience to think like, holy shit, what the hell? Mark Smith is like, this guy's crazy. All of a sudden he went from this mindset guy to this criminal. But the fact is that I tell the kids about respect. So one thing I expect from the kids is anytime there's a guest that comes in our house, you drop everything, you come say hello.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing pisses me off more than I go to someone's house and their kids they come in the kitchen, they don't even say hi to you. Now, whose fault is that? Is that the kid's fault?
Parents.
It's parents.
It's parents.
Parents. And a lot of parents are too fucking blind. They know it's there. They see it. But they're not doing anything about it because they're worried about their feelings. Or it's too hard to talk to them.
And also, I think the parents are also like so much busy clicking more selfies, going to the parties, doing more social stuff.
That's the thing. They are. And so, and I've talked about this before, and I actually got some interesting comments about this, is generational wealth. I think generational wealth is a big mistake. I think generational wealth is what we create is there's always a saying is like the first person that starts a business, like, they're the ones working hard in the business and that kind of stuff. Their daughters will take it on, and they saw how hard the parents were working and that kind of stuff. It's usually the third generation or fourth generation that completely destroys it because they become entitled little shits. Yeah. And all of a sudden they're born with suitcases of money and wealth and the big houses and butlers and all the other stuff. So I'm a firm believer of not passing on generational wealth, but passing on generational intellect. I've already told my children, if I don't feel like they're a fit, I'm happy to give everything to charity.
Nice.
Because that's going to be better served than someone destroying all of it. Because the last thing I want to do is work so hard to give it to someone that's entitled, that expects it.
Right.
So going back to what I was saying before, is the kids are always watching. So the kids see I'm on this journey and so forth. So one thing I've done with my son, our eldest, is I said to him, you come to my school now. I'm your professor now. I'll give you books to read. He doesn't want to read, first of all. So you read these books, you give me a book report, I'll give you $10. So my son has read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, wrote a beautiful book report. His second book he read was Compound Effect, gave me a beautiful book report on that. His third book was Principles by Ray Dalio. Okay, he just finished that. I'm waiting for his book report. And next week he's reading The Slight Edge.
So that's really interesting. I met Armand when I met you at your house, and I think that was the time he turned 17, right?
Yes.
And I was really fascinated by the way that you're raising your children. I mean, the way that you're communicating with the children as well. It's so important and powerful at the same time, because I never got that kind of advice from my parents, or not that they were not cognizant enough to tell me, you know, telling me the basic culture and the values and everything that were there,
Hmm.
but just things about life, giving me education regarding, uh, what is so important being as a human and what you should be doing about it. So there, I felt that missing piece when I was a kid, which I obviously learned over the period of time by, falling down,
Hmm.
getting back up, and learning the way that the life teaches you, right? I see the same thing happening a lot, even the people that I know of, and they just don't care, because I have somebody known to me who I was just talking about her to Ali yesterday, and I told that when she was 10 years old, she was already suicidal,
Hmm.
that girl, because her parents were so busy in partying, in social gathering, and they just forgot about that they had, in fact, they had three children, and they completely forgot about what their child is thinking and why her grades are going down and why they're not talking about
Hmm.
at home. What they see, what parents see, is that their child is angry, they're not talking to them, but what they don't see, what is causing that anger,
Hmm.
and that what is getting her in suicidal. And at the same time, she's finding solace in social media now,
Hmm.
because she's anonymous, and she anonymous love, when you pout, you put a selfie out there with a lot of filters, they just ruin you.
Hmm. Absolutely. You know, absolutely. You know what the best way is to see, like, you both don't have children. And I did this very, very young, very young. I did this when my children were very young, is I bought them these Fisher Price digital cameras that they used to have back in the day. Now everybody's right.
Mhm.
And I did it because I wanted to see the pictures they were taking from their lens.
Hmm.
So if you want to see how connected your children are and see where their headspace is, just ask to see their phone and look at their pictures they have on. That's all you have to do.
Uh,
Yeah,
If you're
that's
seeing a lot of the filters on there and are more selfies, they're by themselves.
Hmm.
And that is a reflection on who? The parents.
Parents.
Now, am I the perfect father? Hell no. Do I go and do an audit on my kids' phones? No. Do I have to? Yes. But I do everything I can in the meantime to at least stay connected, find out what's going on. Are they going to tell me everything? No, hell no. I didn't tell my parents everything.
Yeah.
But I'm not a I'm not a jackass either. I'm not dumb as fuck. Like, I mean, I know what's up.
right.
But I have to be more intentional.
Yeah.
And the intentionality comes into place where it's not spending time with your children. I have people, I spend time all the time with my kids. Yeah, fuck ass. You've been on your phone the whole time watching your thing. That's not spending time. Are you present?
Yeah.
Are you present?
And that doesn't mean that spending 10 hours of being present also. It's just like maybe 5-10 minutes of the day that you're spending with the kids, and that's
Yeah.
enough
Attention. That's
attention.
it.
Yeah.
Mark, it's funny you say this because Sas and I were just talking about this yesterday. Growing up in our community, where this, discussing certain things is always always a stigma with your parents, especially mental health or relationship issues. Um, I've noticed that in our, at least growing up, if you tell someone elder, they would really get up to your face and ask you more and then lecture you. But there would always be a disconnect
Mm-hmm.
when creating that environment that you can freely talk about these issues.
Mm-hmm.
There's one thing to actually be comfortable and talk about it versus being interrogated and asking questions.
Mm-hmm.
And I find a lot of kids growing up in this kind of environment are hiding this in and kind of going outward to, let's say, their friends or someone they shouldn't be talking to about these issues.
Mm-hmm.
And that is also a problem. Like, we see a lot of young kids joining gangs or
Mm-hmm.
young women getting into prostitution because they're finding someone else that's going to love them or
Mm-hmm.
provide value or provide that environment.
Mm-hmm. So the question there is, again, it's all connected. If you know, like Steve Jobs says, it's always easier to connect the dots backwards, right? So if you connect the dots backwards from someone, like hypothetically speaking, okay, we talk about someone that's, you know, poor mental health, or looking at doing selfies, doing all the stuff, looking for love on Instagram or Snapchat or whatever. Now we take it back. So all these things, when we talked about the secrets of the millionaire mind, where programming then affects our thoughts, to our feelings, to our actions, to our results. Okay. This is a circle. This is a circle. So if it's a parent or whoever it is that's not working on that programming, it's because they've been programmed that way. So along the way, the link in the chain, one of the links in the chain has to be broken. It has to be severed. And that's where the letting go of the ego happens.
Yes. That is on you.
That's on you. So I took it upon myself to break that chain. I took it upon myself to tell my children, when you're done in high school, I just want you to go to post-secondary school. I don't give a shit what you take. I want you to go to post-secondary education for a development of your mind, learn study habits, maturity. I'm not telling them to go and become a doctor or a lawyer or whatever. I want them to be an artist in any career they choose. So I'm breaking that link. I've broken that link. Because if I continue with that, what are my children going to tell their children?
The exact same values.
Exact same thing. So again, the issue is fighting that resistance.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I think I'm not sure. Ali's like frozen, or it caught him off guard.
No, you did cut me off guard, but because it's funny, because everything you're saying, this is more than a podcast to me. It's more like an actual coaching session, because everything you're saying, I'm taking notes down.
I'll send you my invoice.
Perfect. Oh shit.
I'm just joking, brother.
But because what you're saying is, it rings so true on so many levels. And I, for one, have experienced that, because I went to school. I was told the same thing, good education, good schooling, good job, good future. And none of that was true, but what you just said was the exact opposite. And it makes much more sense. You go to school it's for the environment, the culture, to develop yourself. Nobody goes to school to be an artist, like a BA. They go to become an actual artist, in the sense where they learn to create something for themselves. You can't really teach someone to be an author unless they're really interested and they want to be one, obviously. But you can teach them how to, hey, listen, this is how you react in a community. This is how you think. This is how you behave. And that has a much more powerful impact, I've noticed. And that's what I went to school for, in my opinion. Even though I didn't know that at that time, I was there thinking that, hey, I should get a good job, do good in school. But looking back, the memories I made, the battles I fought, made me a much better person than taking that shitty course about communication or whatever it is. And that is so much more powerful than actually just spending 40K and thinking you're going to get a degree and do something about it.
Sure.
I haven't even seen my degree. They mailed it to me. I'm like, I'm not even going to the fucking, graduation ceremony. It's a waste of time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and one thing I'll also add to that is, what do you call someone that graduates with the lowest mark in medical school?
No idea.
A doctor.
Okay.
What do you call someone that gets a medical education at Harvard University? A doctor. What do you call someone that gets their medical education at a buttfuck school? Doctor. These are things that we put on ourselves, our own these are own stigmas that we are self-created. So, and that's where I'm going with this, is that this is all about programming.
Yeah.
It's all about programming. I mean, I went to school. I mean, when I went to college, university, I mean, I spent what, $40,000 in a profession I worked for 3 months. So I got into it. What the fuck is this? This is a job. It's not a career.
Yeah.
Back in 1999.
Yeah. You know what? Like everything I've learned so far about marketing, everything else was self-taught. People ask me, would you go back to school? I would tell them yes, but not for the same reason anymore.
Mhm.
I would make better choices, but everything I've learned was self-taught. And that's what's going to get me a better future, not some degree that says that uh, here lies certified Ali, you can do whatever you want. Like, that means nothing.
Yeah, I can get something on Google that says anything I want on there, right?
And that, yeah, people do that.
Yeah, and so I think what we have to do is we have to change the narrative. It's not like what by going and getting an education, what it can do for me. It's like, what can I do to the education?
How can I give back?
Linchpin is a great example by Seth Godin.
I'm
Be
in
the
fact
cog.
I'm a typical example of I'm a stereotypical example of the same kind of a mindset. Like, my sister is a doctor and I'm a computer engineer. We have been programmed to think in that way. And not anywhere near to computer engineering is what I'm doing right now.
Yep.
It's all self-learned, what Ali also said. It's all through the passion and, in knowing the behavioral aspect of the things which really intrigued me to learn more about it through the marketing and all that stuff, which actually got me to learn more about it. And that's how I made my profession. In fact, when I moved to Canada, I put myself into an institution and went there for a day. And the same feeling, like when you went for a job and you said that it's 3 months and what the fuck am I doing here? The same feeling had me took over. And in one day, I dropped out because that wasn't me. I was like, what the fuck am I doing? I'm just following the, that majority kind of a mindset
The herd
of,
mentality. Yep.
yes, institutional thinking,
Yep.
that you have to be to in order to be there, you need to do this. And it's so funny, like even in my like people that I know in my relations and everyone who are in a better stage of their jobs, I would still say this because they're still in the job and they might be earning just like yourself, right? You've been earning a lot in your job portfolio. Same people, they would still say me or somebody else from my background, you have to study into that college. Study in that college, and then that will open the doors for you to have those kind of jobs or careers.
Yeah, no, it's so true. And you know what it comes down to, Sahas, is it comes down to, again, awareness. Okay. Most want to be the smartest person in the room.
Yeah.
The outliers like being the dumbest in the room.
Yeah.
I take pride in being the dumbest person in the room. Whereas before I didn't. Self-professed. I always had to be the smartest person in the room because that was my ego. And my ego was because I had issues with my own self-esteem, my own self-issues, my own what's the word I'm looking for? Lack of confidence. So I had to be at the top of the room. I had to be in front of the room. I had to be in the smartest room. I'd actually go and pick rooms where
you're the smartest.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like I puff out my chest like a fucking peacock.
Yeah.
And now, man, I love sitting in the back of the room and just listening, observing.
Same here. Even I say the same thing in my mastermind, that I might be the dumbest person in the room because I'm listening to you. I'm learning. I didn't know, because if I'm the smartest, then what the fuck am I doing in that room?
Yeah.
It's as simple as possible. No, I think this is really powerful and great conversation. Just before we end, I just have one last question for you. What is one thing that you would tell your kids about mental strength, which you have never got advised from your parents?
You're not alone. You're not alone. That's what I would tell them. You're not alone. You're only alone when you're not talking about it. Talk about it. And if you choose not, like, don't ever think, like, again, that's our own stigma saying you can't talk about these things. You're a little bitch if you're not going to talk about it.
And also,
That's it.
That and you think it also depends a lot on the parents also to open that doors.
It does. Absolutely. And again, this message is not going to be for the children. I would actually change that question. And whoever listens, if you're a parent, this is on you.
Mhm.
You have to stop being a little bitch. Face the music. Be uncomfortable. That's how you're going to grow as a parent. This is how you're going to grow as a human being. Don't hide.
Yeah. Don't hide from the responsibilities. And a lot of parents, what I see is what they do is, what's wrong with you?
Yeah.
You simply ask like raw, direct questions. What's happening? Are you
Like
going
you're being
to?
interviewed, right? Like, geez, man, leave me alone. Like you're not going to tell them.
Kids are not going to, react to that. They're going to say, just
Hmm.
buzz off. I have nothing going on with me.
There's two questions I ask the children now, because one of the things that we do in our household, and this is our house, I can't speak of the other household, is we have dinner together as a family. We have dinner together as a family. And I'll ask the kids, what is something you learned about yourself today that you didn't know you knew?
Mhm.
What is something, where did you fail today? Get them to think.
Yeah.
I'm not looking for bullshit answers like, oh, I failed in Fortnite. No, I'm not looking for that. I'm saying like, tell me, did you learn something about yourself today? Because if you didn't learn something about yourself today, it means you didn't push hard enough.
Yes.
If you didn't fail today, it means you didn't push hard enough.
Hmm.
Yeah. It's not even about winning. It's about just asking more questions to yourself and knowing more in-depth answers, even if you don't know the answer by then.
Mm-hmm.
But at least thinking, going back and forth.
Yes.
No, man, you're doing amazing as a father, and I see you and the way that your children are also growing. You and Zara, you guys are doing really good work. So, which is why I wanted to put you on the podcast for our first interview. And I'm sure a lot of people would have gotten this value out of this interview.
Hmm.
Uh, how can people reach you, Mark?
Best way to get a hold of me is usually through Instagram. The handle is at 72 Mindset Investor. I mean, I'm on Facebook, but I believe that I'm tapped out on how many people I can connect with. I think there's a cap on that. So I get so many requests with that. YouTube, 72 Mindset Investor. I podcast 72 Mindset Investor. Just have to look up 72 Mindset Investor. You'll find me.
That's
Perfect.
awesome. Thank you, Mark. It was a really pleasure interviewing you and having a conversation with you. And I hope a lot of people got value out of this interview today. And stay tuned for the next one in the series. Till then, take care.
Thanks, Mark.
Thanks.